Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here today with another edition of the Downward Spiral. This is my mini series covering my thoughts and opinions over me watching the English dub of the season 2 of The Promised Neverland. Now, today, or last night, I watched episode 4 of season 2 on Toonami, which airs every Saturday. Well, Promised Neverland airs every Saturday at 1:30 in the morning on Adult Swim. So, so, first, what I'm going to do is give a quick synopsis of the episode, then I'm just going to give some of my general thoughts about it, and then we'll call it a day. So, to begin the episode, we really just have more of a continuance of the kids, the previous episode finding the Minerva compound, and we left the last episode with a bit of a twist with a payphone starting to ring, Emma picking up the phone, and hearing a message from William Minerva. Now, what the kids found out this time is that this message was a recording, and it's strongly implied William Minerva has long been passed or long died, and that this has been basically saying, "Hey, here's a nice compound. I know this world is BS, but hey, you kids made it here. If you wish, you can live here forever. I don't blame you for doing that. Free feel free feel free, and you're welcome." And also at the same time, you had some of the other kids discover a room that has like help on and blood scraped on the wall, and a bunch of names too. This point goes completely unaddressed. And then later on, you have the kids decide who should go out hunting again, and some of the boys, including the two pictured here, really wanted to go out help hunting with Ray, Emma, and I believe Gilda and Dawn. So they do. They don't find any decent game, but they do find these like weird fish that live on trees. So what they do is they have to decide whether or not these fish are poisonous or not, are healthy to eat. So what they do is that they test, and what they do is that they have the kids all pull straws, and it turns out the piano boy was the one to draw the straw. So he protests it, and then you ultimately have these same two boys, along with Ray, decide to sacrifice themselves and to eat the fish. Turns out the fish is all right, and we're already halfway through the episode. Second half of the episode is far more interesting, as what happens pretty soonwards is that you have G.I. Joe basically break into the compound. They basically hunt down the kids, and right as it looks like the kids have safely escaped, it turns out, nope, there's more G.I. Joe there. They hold the kids hostage. And it's like, okay, kids, you're going back to the farm. And then out of nowhere, a demon just kind of comes out of the woods and just starts eating G.I. Joe. And then after defeating the demon after they kill G.I. Joe, what the kids do is just kind of run back into the woods. You might think, wow, that's not much of a synopsis. Well, I'm honest, this is essentially what happened this episode. And what if I told you that this episode technically covered a whopping 31 chapters of the manga? So you're saying to yourself, wow, did really nothing happen in the span? Well, yes, a lot actually did happen. We just didn't get to see it because what anyone who's read the manga knows, and honestly, if you're anime exclusive, I would not be surprised if you picked up on this too. They missed a whole arc in the middle here known as the Goldie Pond arc. The Goldie Pond arc, when it was decided and when I heard first that they were skipping this arc, I was kind of surprised because I think if you polled 100 or so Promise Neverland manga fans, what you would probably get is about 40 or so, a good 40 or so would say that Goldie Pond was probably their favorite arc of the entire manga, with another 30 or so probably saying that the Grace Fieldhouse arc, which is the arc that essentially was season 1, being their favorite. So raises the question, why did a arc so popular among fans be the one they decided to completely skip? And that being said, there are some issues with regards to there's some details and some things that happen in that arc which are kind of necessary for later on, and I was surprised by that. Like, I can't say much without like spoiling anything in the future, so I'm treading very lightly here. Another thing about this episode, and I completely forgot the synopsis, is Isabella is back. Isabella being the conniving, demonic mother figure from season 1. So basically, with her arc, she's like in jail. The grandmother is like, "Oh, it's a damn shame you suck at your job. Well, you're gonna die soon."
and then the demons were like, "We will decide your fate." And then the demons break it, and then the demons come into a room later. It's like, you know, we should probably kill you, but we're not. How you said that like the kids are really smart. Yeah, they're kind of outsmarting us right now. So, considering you're your mother, their mother, you probably have the best shot at getting them. So, how about that? Okay, how about you get these, and then we'll like let you be free, like straight up free, not just like back to your job. I mean, like you will not be hunted by demons anymore. So she gladly accepts and she goes on her way, presumably for plot later in the season. Now, in the manga, you have no idea about this until much later. So it was one of those things that it really was more of a twist in the manga, but here it's just played off matter of fact, like part of the plot, which I thought was kind of interesting. Some people didn't really like it. Some people really did like it, if I recall correctly, and other stuff. Because, geez, I know I am missing a lot here. Because, like I said this in previous episodes. Episode 4 is the episode where it's generally considered where everything starts to go downhill in terms of quality. And so far, I think if your only exposure to this was the anime, you watch this, the only complaint you would probably have is really just the pacing. Because you go from basically having a cliffhanger be a complete dud to like 6 minutes determining whether certain fish are safe to eat, all of a sudden to GI Joe's invading your compound, you know. And this GI Joe is kind of weird to describe too because it's a clearly human unit which aligns with the demons. You know they align with the demons because they openly call the kids meat, you know. And they suck at their job too, by the way. You are grown adults with high-powered guns. How were you successfully disarmed and then bum rushed? There's like one guy in particular who jumps through the exit, which is stupid because he could probably stop him easily if he just hung out the exit still. Is like he gets his gun shot out of his hand by two kids shooting arrows, and then Emma and one of the other boys just like bum rushes him. It's like how bad must you beat your job? You get defeated by a bunch of 12-year-olds. And it wasn't even like they outsmarted him. They just kind of out brute forced him, and considering the fact that these aren't that strong kids, I have no idea why you let yourself do this. Same thing go with the one guy who gets knocked out by Dawn. That just seems so stupid. Like this is like your high powered. This is your SEAL Team 6. You got dadded by a bunch of kids, and then when they finally got things settled down and they had the kids captured, all of a sudden you have the most ultimate Deus Ex Machina I've seen in a long time. Like this is the worst Deus Ex Machina I've seen in something that wasn't meant to be a joke. Where like you have this demon just show up in the woods, like, oh, you know how there's like a bunch of kids right here, and then like several other adults over here. I'm gonna take the less favorable route and just go for these adults when I could just eat all these kids right here. But like and it's like also too, it's like the writing the plot, you're always, oh wait, now the kids have to defeat this demon monster. So it's like, okay, how about Ray just goes back foot, shoots off a perfect bow and arrow shot because like we there is no other way we can solve this. And then the kids run off into the woods, which considering how the woods have been played off as dangerous makes no sense. Oh wait, no. There's something in the Goldie Pond arc that tells them that they should go into the woods, but we don't know that because we skipped that arc now, did we? Again, just very frustrating. And there's like another detail that's discussed in the Goldie Pond arc, which again was skipped, that is important for something that happens next episode, which is a very monumental thing, or should be played off as a monumental thing in the anime, but I am not so sure they're going to do a good job of it now. And also, like I kept mentioning, like for the last few episodes, there's a twist coming up. I thought was lame. They didn't even do that twist. That's the thing. It's like they didn't do it, and part of me wants to straight up tell you if you're an anime only viewer what it is. But part of me is like, what if they just do things out of order and this becomes an important detail in like the last episode, and I spoil it for you? I don't want to be that asshole, so I'm not gonna do that. But again, honestly, it's hard to rate this episode because I'm trying to come into this as someone who has no knowledge of the, as like many people watching this on Toonami that have no real knowledge of the manga, and give my opinion on it. And I think if I had no knowledge, foreknowledge of what happens in the manga at this point, I would have probably given this like a 7 to 8 out of 10. Because really, the only issue I probably would have had is it was very apparent that the pacing is horrible in this episode. Like I said, you go from 6 minutes talking about, oh, fish, you have these montages, and again, you brought back the piano music, so that means I'm going to tell you piano music is like when you're in the Chick-fil-A bathroom, you're inhaling out your third Coca-Cola, and you're deciding whether or not the good Christian girl you spent $20 on in the dining room will be willing to commit sin with her in the bed of her dad's Ford F-150. Okay, as long as they keep that piano kid around, I'm going to keep doing that joke. I don't care if you like it or not. So ultimately, you have these montages. You have 6 minutes deciding whether or not to eat a fish. The kids are laughing at all the time, and they're really trying to build up this whole. This compound became one more thing I almost forgot to say. One thing that pissed off a lot of the manga viewers when this first came out, the sub first came out. It is written in the manga that the kids spent about 1 year in the compound, in the Minerva compound, which is important because it strengthens the ticking clock because the kids have to go back to save Phil and the other kids because Emma thought, well, it would probably be about 2 years until they start shipping kids out again. So with spending 1 year in the compound, they have less than 1 year now to save the kids. But now they wrote it in such a way. I think they literally gave us dates to imply it only took like a few days in the anime, weakens the ticking clock because there's not as much urgency. So it seems weird. They're like, okay, right now we have to go back to save the other kids. Instead of, you could regroup, you have some time, and you could get some of the kids to the safe point and then have like not Norman. You could have Ray, Emma, Gilda, and Dawn go back since they're the more physically capable kids. But instead they this looks weird because this is kind of important in terms of how things are timed out. It's important with how the stakes feel, and a lot of people I remember being pretty disappointed with that. And ultimately, here, I mean, from an from an anime viewer, if you're an anime only viewer, you probably thought this was probably an okay episode because you don't see anything weird in front of you. It's just I think this episode, a lot of people who are like, I wonder how they're gonna adapt this from the manga. I wonder how to adapt this from the manga. Or like, oh, they're just going way off script here. And I think that's when a lot of people started to be disappointed. I have to be honest, I didn't necessarily hate this episode. I would personally give this actually a 7 out of 10. I think if I was only anime only, I would give this probably a 7 out of 10 as well. If you're like a manga, if you were like really into the manga and you really wanted a true adaptation, you probably thought this was like a 0 out of 10 here because they do start going far away from the manga here. And again, you skip an arc that is a generally loved arc for so you can spend 6 minutes talking about fish. I can understand why people didn't like this episode. What do you guys think? What's your opinions on this episode? Uh, do you like this content? Do you want me to keep saying weird stuff about the Promised Neverland? Like, comment, subscribe. I'm a Super Orange Cat, and that is all.